Welcome to Help I'm a Parent, Christian parenting in the real world. We are so happy that you have invited us to enter into your home, your church, or wherever you may be gathered today. We are delighted that you have joined us on this program as we discuss your God-given role as a parent.
We are your hosts, Drs. Claudio and Pamela Consuegra. Together we serve as the Directors of Family Ministries for the North American Division of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We believe that one of the most important roles you will ever play is being a parent.
In the midst of a secular society, it is so easy to leave God out of the training of our children. The purpose of this series is to not only put God back into that equation, but to place Him at the very center.
Parenting stretches us and shapes us like no other experience on this earth. It is a sacred responsibility, and there is no higher calling. It is a calling that has its share of joys as well as challenges. It is a calling that demands a big investment on your part if it is to yield results. And yet, those results on your investment will last throughout eternity.
Today we're going to discuss friends, peer pressure, and bullying. As your child ventures out of the four walls of your home into school, around the neighborhood, and to other social events, you will have to address new topics of concern. Who are they talking to? Will they choose friends that you would have selected for them? What are their friends trying to convince them to do? Can they stand up to that peer pressure? And how are they going to handle that schoolyard or neighborhood bully?
During the tween years, the significance of their peers takes on a whole new dynamic. As an infant, it was you, the parent, who provided for their every need. You were the only significant person that really mattered. Now, their world has widened. Their significant others have grown to include many outside of the family circle.
Peer pressure is not always a bad thing. In fact, the influence of peers can be a very positive, motivating factor. The challenge for us as parents is to help our children choose positive friends. How can we help to assure that that peer pressure is positive and not negative?
Our guests today are Sherri Uhrig and Wright Jr. Sherri currently serves as the Director of Children's Ministries for the North American Division of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She is an alum of Southwestern Adventist University and has a master's degree in Children and Family Ministry from Bethel Seminary. Sherri and her husband Bob are the proud parents of 2 children and the grandparents of 6.
Wright serves as an administrative fellow in a blended residency program at Spencerville Adventist Academy in partnership with the New York City Leadership Academy. He's also the senior managing partner at the Mentorship Institute in Chicago, Illinois, and hosts his own radio talk show called Cliff Notes. We want to welcome both of you to our program today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting. Before we begin our conversation with our guest today, we're going to the home of a single mom, Joy, and she will share with us her personal challenges in teaching her daughters the importance of choosing friends wisely and of the negative peer pressure that they experience.
So I'm a single mom, and my daughters have recently started school after being homeschooled for years. They're 8 and 10. I don't think I did enough to teach them about what are some good qualities that they need to look for in a friend. And so I blame myself for the fact that she got caught up in this group with these girls, and they're kissing boys. And I feel like if I had maybe equipped her some more to deal with the challenges of peer pressure, that she would have recognized that if somebody says to you, we're going to the back of the school and we're going to play a kissing game, do you want to come? That the answer is no. But I had never had that conversation with her. What happened in school today? And had to learn quick how to talk to her. And I talked to her about impressions, the impressions that you leave with people. And I said to her, I said, so when you hear people say my name, what do you think of? And she said, oh, Mommy, oh, you sing. I said, so when people hear your name, they're going to think, oh, she's the girl that kisses boys in the back of the school. And she broke down crying. And she says, but that's not how I want people to think of me. And I said to her, I said, well, and then, so now you know that anything that resembles that, you know, it's just not something that you want to do. Because the impressions people have about you, they stay with you sometimes for life. And even though you may change your behavior, sometimes reputations don't change. And we want to have good reputations because that's what Jesus wants for us.
Joy is a single parent, although the challenges that she faces is the same challenge for pretty much every parent. It'd be easier to just simply tell our children, choose your friends wisely. We can do that. But how do we actually teach them to do that?
I think it's with anything, our behavior, our actions speak louder than our words. One of the things I like to tell parents to do with their children is that, you know, the social media, find something that connects. And so what I say is do a status update. Have a time in your morning and evening where you do a status update with your kids. So you're creating an environment for dialogue and conversation.
Okay, so you're not just simply telling them to choose wisely, but rather you begin that environment in your home.
You have to know what you're guiding. So as opposed to giving them instructions on things that are outdated and you don't know the nuances of the conversation and what's going on, hear from them and then respond.
So learn really from them much more than just simply teaching them.
Correct.
Yeah. What would be your advice, Sherri, as a mom, because you're hearing from a single mom?
Well, I agree totally with what you're saying about having that conversation. And we need to talk to our children, or better yet, we need to listen to what they're saying and not try to instruct, oh, you can't do this, or you know, you can't have that friend, but listen and what they're saying so that we can interject in a way that they'll feel safe and want to share with us.
So it's not only what we tell them, but even more importantly in this aspect, it's listening to them and communicating about what's going on in their lives.
Of course, friendships are not things that you can prescribe.
Right.
They just sort of naturally develop. And children have different personalities too. Some seem to be the leaders who form groups around them, and others are followers that follow those leaders around them. Let's say that we have a child who tends to be more of the follower. What would be your guidance to that child?
Well, my guidance is always in dealing with young people is helping them connect dots. The newer generation of kids today, the millennials and the homelanders, which is post-millennial, they're not linear thinkers, right? So they get all the information at the same time. And so sometimes you just have to walk them through the decisions that they're making. If you do this, that leads to this.
Right.
We knew that. And so when we raise and we instruct and we interact with kids, it's helping them connect those dots. And then you'll find that they actually want to make better decisions. It's just equipping them with the how to do it.
So you're giving them a variety of possibilities and possible outcomes
To their
because they
decisions.
haven't thought about it.
So teaching them cause and effect. For every decision you make, there will be a consequence.
Correct.
And you need to make sure that the consequence or the result is for good instead of for evil. That's really good, positive
Flipping the
suggestion.
coin, then, if your child is the leader, again, they seem to attract friends. So how do you teach your child to be a good friend, a good leader to their friends?
Well, that is a challenge too, especially if you have a strong-willed child who wants to do it their way. But I like what you were saying about connecting the dots. Even with a strong-willed child, if you are there to help them connect the dots, then they can make that or they can make that decision easier because they'll see it right there, right there. And
You know, I've heard the term strong-willed child for many, many years, of course, and we tend to think that a strong-willed child is a problematic child. But in reality, a strong-willed child will be the one to stand on their own to
That's
feed against the pressure from their friends. So it's not bad to have a strong-willed child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about peer pressure. I'd like for you to talk to our parents a little bit about the peer pressure that comes from others, not only at school, not face-to-face interactions, but this cyberbullying we have. You know, the influence of peers that our young people today are growing up with technology. So much of the pressure from their peer group actually is taking place through their screens. What would be some of your counsel to parents to be aware of what's happening on their screen use as it relates to peer pressure?
Well, you have to be intentional about what you do. That's first and foremost. You have to be engaged with your children. And research actually shows that the bullying decreases as you go to high school. It's actually more prevalent in third grade, fourth grade, and it starts decreasing.
And what we're talking about right today in this age group.
Right, yeah, and with the cyberbullying, it's not as prevalent as people think. Verbal and exclusion and those types of things. And so for parents, it's being engaged, but specifically with the screens, it would be to make sure that you're aware of what they're doing, right? If it used to be books, and you would kind of preview the book before you handed it to preview the sites, preview what they're doing. We're in a very hectic time right now, very busy. All of us are busy, but you have to be intentional about creating time to be engaged with how your kids are using their technology.
You know, some children are very verbal and very willing to, and just put it out there. This is what I'm dealing with, and because we talked about listening. So for some parents, that's easy to do because children are talking and communicating. But what about that child who is just, it seems very withdrawn? You know, they come home from school, they go into their room, close the door, and perhaps there are things going on, but we don't know about it as parents. What do we do for that child who's very withdrawn? What are some signs maybe we should look for that we need to be aware of, even when we're not hearing particular incidences?
That's where a parent needs to be extremely intentional and involved in what's going on with their children, involved with their friends, making sure that the friends that they have are good peers for them, inviting them over, getting to know them, getting to know what social media sites they're going to, and just keeping that communication open.
That is so important that we don't just simply let our kids make a lot of those decisions by themselves. We still have to guide them. We're still their parents.
Absolutely.
And to help them to choose wisely is still part of our responsibility, not just to let them roam as if they had no control whatsoever. But I want, Cliff, I want to emphasize something that I heard you say, that the bullying decreases, at least the cyberbullying decreases with the years. That's a sign of hope. Because for a child who's 8 to 12 years old who thinks this is the end of the world for me, that we can tell them still, no, it's not. Hang in there. We'll help you work through this, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. It's something that definitely creates hope, I should say, as for a parent. But we also want to make sure that we don't make it a rite of passage.
That's right.
Oh, well, they're just
They're just in that age
you'll
group.
get over
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Right.
No, be inquisitive. And I would say with listening, the other tool to give to parents is to learn how to ask better questions.
Okay.
Right? We, as parents, we ask the yes and no questions.
How was your day?
Exactly.
Fine.
Good. What did you do? Nothing. That type of thing. Ask better questions. How was you and Sally's, you did this yesterday. What did you turn out from that? What turned out from that? Okay. What are you studying? Who are your study partners today? And what subjects are you dealing with? What was the theme of you guys talking on social media? And yes, you're going to get the wave off and leave me alone and all those types of
Or
things.
the fine.
Right, and so you deal with that, but you don't settle for that, and you engage with your child in that.
Yeah, have more open questions as
Correct.
opposed to closed questions. But we're going to continue this conversation to talk about peer pressure and specifically bullying. So please come back after we take this break, because we want to know more about dealing with bullying specifically, and so that you can prevent that in your children's lives. You can probably already tell that we will not be able to cover every area, every concern, or every question you may have in the short time that we have together. Parenting will continue to produce new challenges and new questions every day. As our children grow and change, so do the parenting challenges we face.
And therefore, our goal is to continue this conversation with up-to-date resources and practical parenting tips that you can apply in your day-to-day parenting journey. We will do this online via our website, www.helpimaparent.org. And there you may keep up to date on all of our newly released parenting resources, supplemental products, and even find additional materials to download free of charge.
You're also invited to submit any questions that were not answered for you, subscribe to an electronic newsletter, read a blog for parents, and much more. Again, the accompanying website is helpimaparent.org.
And in addition to that website, we also have a Facebook page where we post daily words of encouragement and resources. So look us up on Facebook, Help, I'm a Parent. And remember, share that Facebook post with the friends in your social network.
It is our desire that this resource will assist you in your God-given role as a parent by using principles that are firmly grounded in the Word of God. Now let's get back to our conversation with today's guests. Welcome back to our program today when we're talking about peer pressure and bullying. And in fact, when we talk about bullying, how would we really understand that? Because sometimes we use broad terms and don't really understand what that means. So give us a good definition.
Bullying is kind of a term that's all-inclusive nowadays.
Yeah.
Everything is bullying. But it's important and to understand and how to define bullying.
Okay.
Bullying is defined by 3 criteria.
Okay.
The first is that it's repeated.
Okay.
Second is that it's intentional of causing hurt or pain.
Okay.
And the third is with someone that has trouble defending themselves. So if you look at guys horseplaying back and forth, they're on the same power level. It's about power.
Among equals in a way. It's
Right. So your
bullying.
child being teased once, there's no repetition there.
Right.
That doesn't mean that's bullying.
Right.
So that's how you would define bullying.
Let's
Okay,
go through those again.
say the 3 things again.
So it's repeated,
Repeated,
an intent to do harm,
intentional.
right? To cause pain or do harm. And the third is to someone that has trouble defending themselves.
Okay.
One seen as lower.
It's
or
an imbalance
weaker.
of power. And the best way to really to think about bullying is peer abuse. And that frames it properly. It's peer abuse.
Okay, what do I do as a parent if my child is being bullied? If my child is the recipient of this type of behavior?
Wow, that is a good question. If the child has, and so you're asking, what do I do when my child comes home and says that they're being bullied?
This is what's happening to me.
Yes. So then, hopefully the conversation has started way before this
Right.
about people that are intent on hurting you. But when a child does come home, then the conversation continues with, well, tell me about it,
So that would be the first question, because again, maybe they're just saying I'm being bullied when it was only one instance.
Right.
So first, bring out of them what the situation or situations have been.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so helping your child to understand if they're being bullied or if they're being teased. If it is being bullied, then as a parent, then you would want to go further and talk to the teacher about it.
If it happened at school.
Right. If it happened at
in
school.
the neighborhood,
Yes.
then would you talk to the parent of the other child?
I would. Cliff, what about you?
Yeah, I think, dialogue again and asking those questions, there's different nuances. So how often is this happening? Is it by the same person? Is it by a group of people? And then making sure what you don't want to do is try and put them in the position with the offender. A lot of people, again, peer abuse, you don't want to put the victim with the person that caused the behavior. Right. Say, hey, you guys got to work it out and be friends.
Right.
You don't need to encourage them to be friends. That's not a goal or whatever. So you want to ask the right questions. How often is it happening? Who is it happening? Where is it happening? Is it at school, in the neighborhood, and those types of things? And do as much of that conversation as possible. And then steps are making sure that the people involved are aware that it's behavior that's going on that needs to be adjusted.
And you did say to talk to the teacher as well if it happened at school. And let's say that you talk to the teacher and you tell them, this is what what my daughter has told me. What would you expect, say, from the teacher or the school? What would you as a parent expect them to do?
What I would expect them to do is for the teacher to have this discussion in the classroom
that would be the
about
first
a
step.
Definition of bullying, and also maybe even some role playing to help the kids to know this is what it looks like and this is what it feels like, and then for the teacher to also have to make sure that activities are very inclusive, so there really isn't a chance for that bullying to happen.
And so I think, what I'm hearing you say is, as a parent, if my child comes and says that, or I'm seeing signs that they are being bullied, I need to be proactive. I can't just say, it'll be okay, tomorrow's another day. That I really need to let that child know, I hear what you're saying. It's important to me. And I'm really I'm gonna have your back, and I'm going to assist you in making sure that you're safe. I want you to be safe. And it may be really hard for me as a parent to accept the fact my child is the bully. It's one thing if my child is being bullied, but hey, maybe I'm hearing from the school or another parent that my child is actually the bully. Now what do I do for that situation?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And one of the things, the training that I've gone through OVEUS, bullying prevention, and they're national trainers. They have 30 years of research on training. And what we try and do is make people aware to move away from the noun and take it to a verb. Okay, so we not bully versus victim. It is bullying behavior, the recipient of bullying behavior.
Okay.
And the reason why is because it's just negative behavior. And so if you put it on a noun of my child is a bully, now there's a problem with my child. The child has something wrong, as opposed to bullying behavior. Bullying behavior is human nature.
Right.
All of us distribute bullying behavior from time to time. And so it gives you a platform on which to deal with your child. And again, as we talked about before, cause and effect. These are your actions. This is what is causing others to feel like, and those types of things.
It's interesting because when we label people, they may actually adopt that label. So if you say your son or your daughter is a bully, and that's what they are labeled as, they may believe, well, yes, I am, and that's all there is to it. Or I'm a victim of bullying. Oh, now I'm the victim. There's nothing I can do. I'm just simply a helpless victim. So changing it from that noun to more like an action, a verb that says, no, you are being bullied or you are bullying somebody, doesn't label the person.
Correct. And one group that is usually left out of this conversation are the bystanders. You have those that see the behavior going on and the long-term effects on what they talk about, even as young Christian boys and girls. How do I stand up? Research shows that people want to step in, but they don't know how. What do they do? And that's the largest group. The schools are not full of bullies, using that term again, people that are bullying and victims. There's a few here, but the groups that watch and where do they go and what do they do if it's not addressed?
In just a few more moments that we have left, I'd like you to say something to both the parent and the child that is being bullied right now. What would be your words of advice to them?
is to be extremely open, keep that conversation going all the time about people that may be doing things that are uncomfortable to us. And it reminds me of a time where someone did something to me that was of a bully nature. And it ended up that I saw that person in a different light, in a different way. And so people react to us, in a bullying type manner, and there may be something back behind that that's causing that reaction. So keep that open, that conversation going, and that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I would say to the parents specifically, remember that your kids succeed and fail. As parents, we want to protect them from all kinds of failures and doing wrongs. So even if your child is distributing bullying behavior or receiving it, remember that, as we model our life as Christians, that we grow with God through failure. So allow your children to fail and stay with them, put your arms around them, be with them. There are several scriptures and proverbs that talk about choosing friends and those types of things, as well as, in Ecclesiastes and Corinthians. Search the scriptures and use that for your guide.
Yeah. Good
Well,
advice.
I know you both have some additional resources that you're going to share with us, and we will post those on our website, helpimaparent.org. But we want to thank you both so much for spending the time being with us today and for giving us some valuable insights on friends, peer pressures, and bullying. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we also want to thank you for joining us as we explored some of the challenges of helping our children choose their friends wisely, about peer pressure, and about bullying. Now it's time for you to open your parenting manual that accompanies this resource. Read the material over and discuss any thoughts or questions that come to mind with your group members. To help you get started, we have included some discussion questions and group activities.
We also would like to remind you to visit our parenting website, helpimaparent.org, and there you will find many additional resources and materials.
And remember that as much as you love your children, God loves them even more. He has appointed you as their steward, their caretakers during their lives here on earth. More important, He has entrusted you with the task of preparing them for their forever home in heaven with Him.
God never said that parenting would be easy, but He did say that He would never leave us or forsake us. The Creator who knit our children together in the womb has numbered the very hairs on their heads. He also holds the blueprint for their lives. Claim His promise and invite Him to co-parent with you.
Join us next time on Help, I'm a Parent, Christian Parenting in the Real World, when we will discuss the challenges of guiding your child through puberty and ways you can talk to them about living a life of purity. And until then, we pray that God will lead your child to develop positive relationships with peers so that the influence of others in their lives will be one that will lead them to a closer relationship with Jesus Christ. May showers of God's richest blessings rain down upon your family today.